delivery, retail, cybersecurity that are actually rapidly growing during this time. So we encourage you to remain optimistic, to continue to apply for new roles. If you do decide to apply for a job right now, just be aware that approaching hiring managers and recruiters requires even more thoughtfulness and an effort in order to stand out as a viable candidate. So in today's agenda, we're going to discuss mistakes that some job seekers are making. We're also going to talk about developing effective job search strategies, followed by transferring skills to other work, how to adapt, and then lastly, just a time of transition. So some of the mistakes that people are making during this pandemic is basically is that they're using the same old tactics. You can't be stuck in your old ways. You know, simply sending resumes and cover letters or making phone calls are just not cutting through. So you'll need to find other ways to stand out in an increasingly crowded candidate marketplace. Successful candidates have been proactive about getting beyond that usual CV, getting around social distancing factors, everything from producing short videos that allow recruiters and clients to just get a richer snapshot of who they are as individuals are being used right now. Understand that recruiters are they're used to receiving hundreds of resumes each day. So, but we're also encouraging candidates to find just a more engaging way to reach out to them. So during normal conditions, a phone call might suffice, but nowadays you really need to be more proactive. Maybe even ask for a video conference that you can call and connect and build rapport with that employer. Luke, what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I'm in full agreement there, Nathan. I think that now more than ever, you need to find ways to make yourself stand out. And especially, during these times when unemployment is high, there are a lot of people who are out of work, and it's unfortunate, but being able to recognize that and know that there is something that you can still do to make yourself stand out, whether it's through a customized cover letter or even customizing your resume, whether it's through reaching out through social media channels to anyone that you may know at that company. All those things are going to be really important.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing, of course, social distancing and working from home is the norm nowadays. In fact, I was just telling Luke that today is my first back on the Ailey Pace campus, and I haven't been here in almost 8 months, and it's weird, But right now everything's going to a virtual platform, so we do know that some people struggle with this concept because you do have to be able to bring that same level of enthusiasm and professionalism and communication that you would in an in-person interview. So you really need to embrace that video or embrace this concept. Don't forget that it's formal. So we've seen in some virtual presentations that people are in pajamas or whatever the case may be. We have a career fair coming up, and we just want to remind students to make sure you suit up as you would a normal career fair. Luke, what do you think? What are your thoughts on that? And I know Luke's going to talk more about this later on in the presentation.
Yeah, this is going to be an ongoing theme for sure. But, look at my surroundings, right? I'm in my basement. That's what this is, by the way. People wonder, well, the lofted ceiling looks like it's all painted black, and it is painted black, but it's my basement. And, I've got weights behind me. Don't be afraid and ashamed of your surroundings. I mean, you're in your home. Employers understand this, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't prepare, right? So don't ever, be ashamed to show who you are a little bit, but at the same time, that's no excuse for not preparing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and one of the biggest mistakes that we're seeing from candidates is just applying everywhere. You need to be more selective and personal when you approach recruiters and hiring managers. You've heard that saying, focus on quality rather than quantity. Because you're not the only one. There's literally millions of unemployed in the United States right now, and so as a result of this, it's creating an intense competition. And so, you have to be able to invest more time into creating your customized pitch, a customized resume. Um, if just remember this, if you're not prepared, someone else will be. And so, just understand that we're all impacted by the COVID-19. And so, you just want to make sure that you're doing more and going a step above from other candidates and not just throwing your resume out to a million companies. So let's see. Let's go to the next slide here.
Nathan, while you transition there, Nathan, I do have a quick comment about that too, because
Sure.
I was just having a conversation with a couple of my fellow talent advisors at Waste Management about this, like literally about 30 minutes ago. And that is, when you're looking at positions to apply to and things that you think you qualify for, really examine your own experience, and you need to kind of be able to say to yourself, okay, well, if I were the recruiter for this position, would I want to look at my application and my qualifications as being someone who really could fit this role? Because a lot of times applicants will just apply to anything that they see that they think, well, sure, I could do that. I want to do that, so I'll apply for it. You also need to evaluate yourself, what your own qualifications could be, and whether or not they do really fit with that position. And make sure you at least read some of the job description, right? You need to have some sense of whether or not, okay, as a recruiter, I could see myself probably being a good fit for this. Okay. So definitely be thinking about that as you go through the process. It definitely helps out us as well. It makes it a lot easier for us to be able to, tell if you could be a qualified applicant.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point to bring up, Luke. In fact, in our own Career Hub system, we could see who's viewing job postings, and sometimes I'm looking at an engineering job posting, and I might see a music student or a business student looking at these job postings, and I'm like, I don't even know why you're looking at it, but I think to some extent, some people are just wanting to throw something out there, and that's just not the way. We'll kind of touch base through it throughout the presentation. One thing that you want to not do is have unrealistic salary expectations. So there's nothing wrong with aiming high. People want a higher salary, people want comprehensive perks and all that. But just understand that some of this may not go well with these companies or recruiters. I mean, they're laying off. Budgets are tight. Budgets are being slashed, and so these candidates that are setting their rates or salary expectations a little too high, they may be pricing themselves out of an opportunity. Companies are under extreme pressure right now to manage costs during the pandemic. So just having an understanding of this, and this will benefit you in the long term. Also, if you are an employee, you can't expect big salary bumps at the moment. Sometimes candidates are trying to aggressively negotiate, or during this crisis, and they're looking for their financial gain. But you really need to put yourself in the shoes, in these employers' shoes, and understand kind of what they're going through. Another mistake is being inflexible. I know, Luke, you want to talk about that? Because I know you see a lot of this probably.
Yeah, so going back to the unrealistic salary expectations, I think the point is obviously great, because we are in a time here where there are a lot of applicants that are flooding job postings, and usually employers have their choice, right, of who they want to go with. This is not the time to be really, really sensitive and picky, about how much you make. And granted, you want to do yourself justice, right? And you want to make sure that you make what you earn. And I think most companies do a pretty good job of paying a fair wage. But at the same time, don't make a demand that you don't want to stick to, right? And be willing to walk away from it if you do make that demand. Just be open, try and be flexible if you can. And I think, Nathan, you're going to talk more about the inflexibility part too.
Yeah, the thing is with even in career services, I'll have students, candidates reach out to me and say, "Hey, I've applied for 50 jobs and haven't landed anything." My response to them is reply for another 50. Because it's going to take time, and so it's understandable that everybody wants to get back to work as quickly as possible, especially if you've been laid off. I mean, everybody's got bills, right? But understand that you have to just be realistic, I guess. Also consider ideas you've never thought about. Maybe, working from home, working part-time, maybe a freelance basis. I mean, there's all types of things that you can do. These some of these clients and recruitment firms, they've had to let go of some of their staff. And so those that are remaining are very thin, and thus everybody's doing double, triple work. And so some people are like, oh no, I don't want to do that. And so you have to be a little bit of flexible with that. You don't want to be too impatient either. Some candidates are coming across pushy. I've talked to employers in the industry, and they'll tell me, it's like, man, at some point in time, I just eliminate a candidate because I see that they've called 10 times in a day, or they're blowing up my email. I see Luke shaking his head, and it's true. I mean, Luke, even in career services, I could have a student, email me, 5 times a day. Hey, have you done my resume? Have you done my resume? Because I need work. I'll get to it. I've got other resumes to do as well. So you have to have patience during this time, most definitely. And lastly, I think it's a mistake actually to waiting. Some people just say, I'm just going to wait until this crisis passes. Well, here's the thing: nobody knows when this is going to be over with. I mean, right before the presentation, Luke and I were discussing that we could be in this into 2022. Which means another year of going through this. So, if it's for you to wait, fine. But I'm going to encourage you to still apply. Candidates, that are remaining optimistic and enthusiastic about these opportunities are the ones getting the job offers. In fact, I mean, employers like to see those candidates that are remaining positive during this pandemic. I mean, so those are good things. And lastly, go ahead, Luke. Did you want to say something?
No. You're good. I think all of these points are really, really good, and we need to pay attention to them, especially with the waiting part, right? We need to act now, and we don't know when this is going to end. This could be everyone's heard the term new normal, right? This could be the normal for a while. The time is now to do something about your career, to do something about what you want to do with the rest of your life. Get that going now. Do not wait.
Yep. And the last point we want to make is, or a mistake we've seen candidates have, is just having a lack of empathy. Just be mindful again that everybody's. This is new to everybody. This remote work, layoffs. I mean, there's just so much going on, And if you lack that empathy, especially in an interview, it's going to be tough for you to really impress the employer, because everybody has been impacted one way or the other. Almost everybody I know, and not to get gloomy here, but everybody I know has lost someone, or know someone that's been hospitalized or sick, and it's challenging times. But imagine a company that has, or hiring manager that has to hire X amount or have to lay off X amount. There's a lot going on right now. So, show empathy to everything that's going on, not just when applying to jobs, but to your coworkers, your supervisors, all of that. We're all in this together, and we can get through it. So let's go to the next section. So let's talk about developing effective job search strategies. So with the very number one thing, and Luke, I'll let you chime in on this. You really, really need to embrace your online networking. It's the foundation to everything right now. Everything's virtual. Look, people understand that we're going through a difficult times, and most people want to help. So when you're trying to network, it's okay to go through friends and family. I was talking to a student not too long ago, and he's like, "Well, I don't really want to ask my friends for work." And my response was, "Why not? I mean, I mean, anything and anybody and everywhere that you can get or join to your network just increases your chances of getting hired. So don't hesitate to reach out to former colleagues or comment on people's online posts. Maybe try making a video greeting, just say, let people know who you are. Hi, it's okay. I mean, in fact, that personality side of things is what people are really looking for nowadays. I mean, they want to just see that kind of thing. Luke, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, totally agree. So here's the thing. Now is not the time to be bashful. Now is the time to promote yourself as much as you can, as often as you can. So what I mean when I say that is, when you're trying to network with people, anyone and everyone is a possibility here. It could be a friend on Facebook, it could be someone on Twitter, it could be Instagram friends or followers. LinkedIn is the place where you need to be fostering that online identity for your professional persona, though. And you need to have those other social media channels. They don't necessarily have to follow that exact same suit, but they also need to represent you in a very good way. So be careful about what you put out there, because employers are looking. They will look, and they will find things on your Facebook page, that maybe you aren't so proud to have put out there, and they will flag that, as kind of a red flag. So make sure that you are putting out there who you want to represent as yourself, and be proud of that, and definitely don't be shy about that either. Don't be shy about making connections, and asking people for referrals, or references to new opportunities, or to other people even. This is the time to be a self promoter, to definitely go out there on your own behalf and try and put on your best self, and make sure that you can do some great things for your own career.
Yeah, no, that's excellent, and I'm glad you brought that whole branding up, Luke, because we've been talking about that a lot lately in career services, and I always drop it in on my presentations, because right now is the time for your brand to shine more than ever. I think a lot of candidates or students that we work with, the one reason why they struggle is because, number one, they haven't identified their brand, and two, they're not getting that brand out there. I had a student was letting me know, well, I'm not a fan of social media or LinkedIn or what have you. Well, guess what? Now nobody knows who you are. I mean, that's the thing. We're in a virtual world. And one thing that we've seen a lot, especially with resumes, the reason why they're not as well written as they probably could be is because it's not them. It's I mean, they're using these resume templates and builders, and they're trying to be something that they're not, and that's not the case. These companies don't hire robots. They what they're looking for is for the right fit for their team, and especially when there's only the one job or a few handful of jobs that they're hiring for, you better believe that they're going to go to those online profiles and all of that, more so than when hiring is a lot, because the thing is, though, making that right connection, making that right impact is important. So yeah, definitely concentrate on your brand. So another thing that you want to do is do your research. I mean, so you've got these extra moments now where you're at home. Some people don't have to go to that daily commute of going to work now. So spend some time on things that you're interested in. Again, go back to building that brand. Maybe you need to take a step back and just reconsider what your brand is in the first place. Um, you know, uh, there's all kinds of things that you can do. Everything from joining leadership classes and what have you, which I'll talk more about on this next slide here. It's important. So let me. Hold on, having technical difficulties, Luke. Oh, there it is. Okay, so one thing that you want to do is you want to make sure to ask questions. Ask specific questions that are, it's okay. I mean, Luke, wouldn't you feel like during an interview, it's okay to ask questions about how a company is handling the pandemic? I mean,
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So this is the opportunity for you to be able to interview the company as much as we're interviewing you. right? So obviously you don't want to just open up with asking all these questions. I mean, you want to be able to allow the conversation to flow and get through, maybe a good portion of the interview at first, but don't be shy about, asking if you can ask some questions at the end if you're not asked directly, which you should be. But yeah, don't be shy to say, hey, you know what? I've got a few questions myself, because that does two things. One, it allows you to gain more information, right? And really assess and evaluate whether that company and the people you'd be joining would be right for you. But two, it also shows that you're interested, right? It shows that company that you've put enough thought and effort into thinking about, okay, these questions that may not be super complicated, but nonetheless, they show that you've really put in time and effort to thinking about, okay, could this be right for me? That goes a long way.
Yeah, no, I agree. One thing that, you could ask, these companies you're interviewing with is, how they're supporting employees during this time, what type of remote guidelines they've implemented. Maybe just ask them, what are their future, strategies or goals. I mean, there's all kinds of questions you can ask, because understand this, you want to make sure that you're asking the right questions, because what about if that company's not there in a year from now? I mean, what steps are they taking to, make sure that everybody's going to be there tomorrow? And so, it's important to ask these questions, because you may decide, well, based off the responses, that job is not for you. And so that leads us to that point that we were making earlier about not jumping at anything. It's really not a time to be desperate. It's a mistake. You want to focus on the value that you're bringing to the table, but you also want to focus, like what Luke was saying. They're trying to find that match, and so you don't want to just jump at everything, because you might not be a match for these companies. Sometimes they want to hire you, but after reconsidering everything and what you want out of a career, or what you want, or looking for during this pandemic, may not match. And so that's the whole key to things. So yeah, definitely don't want to keep jumping at everything. And lastly, I mean, practice those job interviews. They're trickier to have on video, because people feel awkward being on a camera. It is what it is. I mean, some people don't even like their photos taken, and so, um, but it's part of working remotely, so again, trying to stand out. I mean, Luke, wouldn't you agree that having even the correct LinkedIn picture makes a difference on
Oh
your
my
LinkedIn?
goodness. Yes, I'm going to be talking about this, you guys, in 2 weeks. I'm going to be presenting on LinkedIn specifically, if you want to get the nitty gritty. But yeah, having a LinkedIn profile that looks crisp, clean, and has just first of all, a nice picture of yourself, goes a long, long way. Trust me, half the people on LinkedIn don't even have that. So you'd be doing yourself a favor. But yeah, and I mean, Nathan, going back to the point that you made about practicing, it's like with anything. The more you practice it, the more you're going to become more comfortable with it and get good at it. I've been doing LinkedIn videos. If you ever looked at my LinkedIn profile, I've been doing videos for a while, and I've posted a lot recently this past year. And every time it gets a little bit easier, like being on camera right now, just a little bit easier. And you just get more comfortable. It becomes more of a comfortable conversation. You're looking into the camera, sure, but at the same time, like you're doing the same thing with me, and that helps me to feel like it's a little bit more normal, to be honest. So practice, practice, practice. Call up a friend, call up your spouse, your mother, your father, and just get on video with them and just have a conversation with them if you haven't done it. There are a lot of ways that you can do it too, obviously, with all the devices that we have these days.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, by phone, laptop, tablet, what have you. And Luke, it's not just about interviewing, but it's conducting business. I know that you have Houston offices, but you're in Chicago. So, these employers are going to want candidates that can actually embrace this type of working remote,
Yep.
most recently I saw in the news, I think it was this past week, that one of the major airlines was laying off 25,000 people. And why? Because nobody's flying. So, if you work for these big oil and gas companies or these larger companies, like Waste Management, they have offices all over the United States. So you're going to need to be able to embrace working online, the video conferencing tools, all of these things. And you know what? It would probably be a solid point to bring those up in an interview. It's like, yeah, I have practice using Microsoft Teams or Zoom or whatever. That's great. That's just another notch for you, right? I mean, that's good stuff. So let's go to the next one. So let's talk a little bit about career services. So one major advantage that you have as an ACC student is that you have access to career services. During these crises, I mean, our services are still available to you remotely. You can schedule a virtual WebEx meeting with a career specialist like myself at any time, Monday through Friday. If you just go on to Career Hub, in fact, if you look at this little picture on there, you can see right under company interview, schedule, and an appointment. And so Career Hub keeps track of all of your appointments, your calendars. It's got all the tools that you need to work one-on-one with the specialist. You can upload your cover letter and resume for review. We have a live chat option that is now available as well. For those of you that may not have a Career Hub account, very easy. Just go to your My Eagle homepage and with the little gold box at the bottom. Takes 5 minutes to sign up, and from there, you'll be able to have your resume and cover letter reviewed. We can talk about career exploration, internships, and job searches. Luke, I was doing a presentation not too long ago, and I was telling students that most people won't buy a house without consulting a realtor. You wouldn't get an operation without consulting with a doctor first, but yet a lot of people go through careers with never speaking with a career specialist, And so, I mean, we we come from the industry. I myself have over 25 years in business management. I work for a lot of Fortune 500 companies. I'm available to you at any given time, so it's only another tool that you can have in your disposal when looking for work during the pandemic, is to utilize your free services that are available to you as a student. And not only as a student, but even when you graduate ACC, as an alumni, you can always come back to career services. It's free. In fact, we have I've been seeing resumes from students that graduated 5, 10 years ago because they just recently got laid off and they're needing help to updating their resume. And it's they just need to sign up as an alumni status, and they're back to having all of the services available to them, which I think is awesome. So,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. So let's talk about transferring skills to another work. And I'll tell you, this is a really important section because what I've seen, is that, yeah, okay, let's say you're an engineer and let's say you got laid off or there's nothing going on right now, but maybe you have skill sets that could be transferred to other industries, sales, customer service, whatever the case may be. And some people are unwilling or not understanding how they can transfer those skills. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. So what are transferable skills? So, basically they're general skills, like let's say communication skills, that can be transferred between jobs, departments, and industries. You know, Employers really value these skills, especially communication, problem solving, and teamwork. If you look at any job posting, number one will probably be communication skills. I mean, Luke, what do you think about that?
Yeah, yep, absolutely. These are transferable skills that really can be applied to many positions. And this is the point where you want to highlight these skills, in something like a cover letter, in something that shows the employer that you've put a little bit of work and effort into, researching the position itself, and then also trying to tie your skill set to that position, so that if even if you don't have specific experience maybe in that industry or whatever it may be, you still can show that there's a reason for looking at your application a little bit more seriously. So this is where you want to make yourself stand out. And also, to go along with that, cover letter or top of the resume, however you want to indicate it, you also want to try and make a personal connection with someone, at that company if you can. That is the ideal situation. And you can do that through LinkedIn most easily. Again, kind of tying it back to social media.
Luke, in fact, a lot of candidates may or may not know this, but everything they need to know is in that job posting, correct? I mean, like the skills needed, what's desired by the employer, it's there. They just need to match that to their resume. I mean, that's the key, I think,
Yeah. Usually, Nathan, I'm not I'm not going to say a blanket statement where every job description out there is
True, yes,
completely
true.
100% accurate, but I will say that most everything that you need to know can be found somewhere in there. It's just a matter of reading it. I mean, a lot of people just look at a job title and say, "Oh, sure." You know what I mean? Like they don't even read the job description. I would highly recommend you get into the habit of actually going through those job descriptions and picking out pieces that you think that you can really tie back into your own experience. And if you can't do that, you probably shouldn't be applying to it. Like that's the bottom line. So evaluate your own experience. Again, going back to this theme, evaluating what you have done, what you can do, tying it to that position and highlighting it somehow, some way, so that that recruiter knows, hey, they really could do this because they've tied it together in that cover letter at the top of their resume.
Yeah, you're right, Luke. One thing also about resumes, and especially when it comes to skill sets, every skill set and the more you gain just increases your value. So, we talked about that in the very beginning of the presentation that, especially for new graduates, it's all about being able to demonstrate those skill sets on paper and how you're going to bring value to those companies by offering you an internship or the job, what have you. And that's just it. I mean, I've seen too many resumes where they list skills, but they don't actually show where they've used those skills. And so it's very important to show how you're using them, when, what, how, what was the outcome of using those skills, and all of that stuff too on these resumes. Some of the benefits of these transferable skills of, again, it's flexible. It's flexible in a point that it makes you more diverse, makes you more complete. These skill sets can definitely set you apart from other applicants. I mean, for example, most candidates might put, let's say, that they're proficient in Microsoft Office, but the candidate that puts adept in Excel or something like that is really going that extra step to really highlight that skill. They're like, hey, I'm good at this particular skill. Everybody knows how to use Word or what have you, but if you're specialized in something, that's another thing. It makes you a diverse candidate. I mean, this shows that, hey, I can work in a large range of things. Because, to be honest, with the job shortage, you may start in one particular job, but things get moved around and you may need to adapt to these roles. And so, that's something that you need to really understand. And then also, of course, just your employability, just building, like, Luke hit it on the nail with, mentioning, that strong cover letter before they even look at that resume. That cover letter is what's going to strike their interest to look at that resume in the first place. And that's where you sell yourself. That's where you say, hey, I've got these skills. This is what I'm bringing to the table. Um, you know, this is what I can do. This is what I've done. And so, the thing about these transferable skills, just like the name says, they can transfer from one industry to the next. You don't lose them if you really know how to use them. So, just keep that in mind. So that's the, let's talk about some of the main transferable skills real quick. So leadership and team management, of course, that involves taking charge, motivating others to achieve specific goals. Problem solving, definitely on the top list for a lot of companies. Every business is going to encounter issues, and you being able to demonstrate that you have the ability to solve those problems is going to be a major bonus for your applications and cover letters. Time management is good. Just how you organize through your day. In fact, Luke, I've noticed that's a very popular interview question. People always ask, how you manage your day. The time management question. Yeah, I mean, Luke would hit you with that one for sure. Communication skills, one of your basic employable skills, just being able to communicate, and we're not talking here, there's a difference between talking and communication, okay? Being able to communicate well means communicating clearly and concisely with other people. And lastly, data analysis, just being able to interpret information, like, hey, these are the numbers. What do these numbers mean? That's valuable stuff to employers. Luke, did you want to add anything to there?
Not really, Nathan. I think that they're all pretty self-explanatory. The challenge for all of us is going to be trying to make sure that you can demonstrate those things, whether it's on your resume or through an interview. Because it's easy to say that, sure, I have time management skills or I have great communication skills, but you need to be able to show how you've been proficient in those areas in some way, shape, or form, whether it's through an example of maybe a school project that you worked on, or something like that, maybe an internship that you had. So being able to think critically about those skills and tying them to experiences that you've had is going to be key.
Yeah, most definitely, most definitely. So Luke mentioned this earlier in the presentation. Now's the time to really hone those skills. In the last few slides, we mentioned the importance of those skills. So now's that time that you should really consider taking on maybe an online course, getting a certification. If you're not sure where to start, Harvard and MIT offer free online courses. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of free courses out there. Everything from communication skills to Microsoft skills, what have you. Again, focus on those digital capabilities. Be remote ready when you get hired. If you don't have those skills now, brush up on them, practice with your family, stay open to these new possibilities, and definitely you want to showcase those transferable skills. Just be confident that you're using your resume and cover letter to show that you have these skills that they're seeking. Luke, do you want to touch more on this digital capabilities?
Yeah. So, particularly the digital capabilities, because again, we're in this digital world. It is, there's not a day or probably even an hour that goes by where you're not picking up your phone and using it, right? So, so being able to continue to develop things that are going to be essential to that process and to companies that are really concerned about it too. One of the things that Waste Management is going through right now is called our digital transformation. And what is it? Well, basically, it's giving our customers easier ways to access our services through things like the phone, through the web, through any type of means that will allow them to, through the internet, through a digital means, to make it easier for them to buy our services, adjust their service with us. All of it is going to be tied to what the future and what is currently what we're dealing with now with digital, the digital means. So if you can be thinking of it through that lens and what it's going to mean for how the future of that particular position or job will be, then it's all the better that you're able to kind of continue to work on that and hone that skill. And all of us are very good probably at using phones and things like that. So, there's not a lot of things that you can actually do with that. But, think again about what Nathan said. There are tons of online courses that you can take that probably don't cost a thing that will allow you to become a better candidate. So like, using Microsoft Excel, for instance, if you don't know how to use it very well, that's going to be something that you're going to want to look up and maybe try and take some courses on, because becoming proficient with it is all a matter of practice. And you can find things in your everyday life that you could probably use Microsoft Excel for that will help you to organize that, and become more proficient just in your own life in general. So that's just one example.
Yeah, for sure. I like what you were saying, Luke, about, that, we're always using our phones. I mean, I'd be lost without mine, to be honest with you. I mean, right now, like I said, I'm presenting on my laptop, then I'm looking at my desktop, there's emails coming in. the phone's ringing, it's just, I'm using two or three devices at one time, and it's just part of life, especially in this virtual platform. I've had most recently, I had a student that missed out on an opportunity, Luke, because they weren't checking their email, and an employer where the candidate was under the impression that the phone would ring, and so they just weren't paying attention to their email, and that's just a mistake. I mean, it's we're definitely living on that virtual platform. I mean, Luke, I mean, you communicate a lot with people through LinkedIn, right? The LinkedIn messages,
Yep.
I mean, if you're not using those things or paying attention to them, how do you know that an employer hasn't sent you a message via LinkedIn? And so you got to keep an eye on those things, and that goes back to just managing your daily task. I mean, I know it can be a lot. I mean, Luke, I mean, I feel like sometimes we work twice as much from home, for sure. And that just means I need to be more efficient in my day. That means I need to have better time management for myself, virtual meetings, virtual training. I mean, you name it, virtual presentations. There's all kind of stuff happening right now. And so being able to juggle that along with student appointments and what have you, it's a lot. But also, it's really helping me to hone those skills tremendously by using them again over and over. So yeah, good stuff there, Luke. Let's go to and Luke, this next slide, about how to adapt, and we've actually talked a lot about this already. So we'll kind of go through this real quick. I mean, for the most part, I would say no doubt, that most of these companies are doing virtual hiring process. Everything from the interview to you may have two or three virtual interviews, by the time it's all said and done. And so, it, and it's different, like I was telling Luke earlier that one thing I missed about being on the campus is that I'm such a people person. And the thing is, though, if you just relax and treat it like a normal interview, then you'll be more at ease. I mean, I had another student, Luke, was telling me that they did have a face-to-face interview, but people were wearing their mask and stuff, and it was just the most uncomfortable situation that they've experienced. But it's part of it. So we mentioned the importance of communication skills. Again, these are going to become more important than ever. They're in high demand right now. We tell people to get creative with the stuff. Interviews are paying attention. Luke, if you don't mind, chime in on these last two. Because I know, especially since you do a lot of hiring, or just tell us what that means. Like, what are y'all paying attention to?
Yeah, so I think a lot of what you already said, Nathan, just in the sense of, let's treat this like a normal process, even though we may not be in person. So, interviewing virtually really, I mean, should be just like interviewing in person, except for the fact that obviously you're not present, with that other person right there in the same room. But I mean, the same rules apply. You're going to want to be courteous. You're going to want to look at the camera, so it kind of simulates you looking at at the eyes of the other person. You want to be free of distractions. You want to have a quiet space. I mean, all of this stuff still applies. And I think that as an interviewer or a company that is interviewing through this method, and by the way, we're doing pretty much all of our interviewing this way, as a company for the most part. We want to make sure that we're still using all the same techniques that we normally would, right? So asking what's called behavioral questions. Those are questions that are going to ask you as the interviewee, to come up with an example, like I was talking about before, of what you've done in your past. And it gives a complete answer for it, right? So the situation or the task, the action that you took to address that situation, and then the result, what happened as a result of what you did. So it gives a complete picture, of how you performed. We still use those types of questions. And we still want these interviews to be conversational as well, you guys. Don't get us wrong. We want this to be as smooth as possible. We're not trying to make it difficult. Now, some companies may have a different story when it comes to that. They may try and trick you or or make it overly complicated so they can see how you react. But for the most part, we aren't doing that. We're just trying to have a conversation with people to get a sense of what they can do. And so the more comfortable you are in that type of, again, virtual setting through practicing and through doing a lot of that on your own, the better off you're going to be.
That's a good point to make about that nonverbal cues. I've noticed that even in a lot of presentations that the people that you can see on camera, they're not actually looking at the camera. They're distracted, they're doing all kind of things. And if this is going to be the case, it's probably best to keep the camera off. But you're not going to be able to do that during an interview. So
Right.
Professionals like Luke are going to hit you with that behavioral question. They're looking for those nonverbal cues to see how you answer the question. If you're not telling the truth about that question, there's all kind of reasons why nonverbal cues play its role. But and again, this we're in uncharted territory, so this is a whole new process for everybody. So just keep that in mind. You're not the only one that's going through this. Let's see. We got a few more slides, and then we'll open it up for questions. So it's always a two-way street, and Luke was talking about this earlier. It's okay to ask questions. Ask as many questions as you want. In fact, Luke, I don't think I've ever been in an interview where they cut me off in the middle of me asking my questions. Just kind of however many questions I had, they were more than willing to answer those questions. It's about that right fit. Not just for you, but for the company. So reflect on your needs. Think about what your work's going to be now and in the future. Just get an idea about what that like working for these companies during and after the pandemic. See, that's one thing where I think some people don't think about, Luke, is that after. There's always going to be an after. We don't know what it's going to look like. Okay. We don't know if the companies that hire you today are going to be restructured tomorrow. Look at Sprint and T-Mobile. They recently joined, and I never thought they would join. In my lifetime. And so there's all kind of things going on out there. Luke, if you don't mind, I'm going to go to the next slide because I just save some time for some questions. Okay. So definitely we're in a time of transition. One thing, we talked about that there are companies that are hiring, hold on. I think I missed a slide, Luke. Let's go to this. Somehow that got transposed. Sorry, everybody. But, we're definitely in a time of transition. Maybe it's okay to consider a new career path. Luke mentioned this earlier. Reassess yourself, your goals, your career growth. Honestly, me personally, I'm not going to let a pandemic, slow my growth, my personal growth. Luke, I'm going to continue to take personal development classes, training, all of this stuff. Because you never know when I might be asked to take on another role, and so I need to prepare myself for things like that. We mentioned earlier that taking on a temporary job or freelance gig, these are good opportunities. They could lead to full-time work. And so earlier in the presentation, when we mentioned about not being too picky, you might start off part-time or on a contractual basis, but then that might lead to full-time. So you have to keep your mind open to these kind of things. Stay up to date. Update those LinkedIn profiles. Update those, your candidate profiles on these job boards. It's good to have them in the first place. Indeed has them, Monster has them. Update people with your information. Hey, this is who I am. This is where I'm at. This is what I'm looking for. That's okay to be able to do that. You want to also to customize your job applications. I think the mistake we see a lot is people using that same resume over and over and over again to apply for 100 jobs. That's not the way to do it. You're going to have less success doing that. It's better to customize those applications, read those job postings as Luke was mentioning earlier. Do your best to match what the employer is looking for, because you may find that if you're really looking at the job posting that you're just not a match for that. So don't force the issue. Luke mentioned about reaching out to your network. Definitely tap into your current network, make new, connections, and that's not going to stop. That's going to be, Luke, I mean, even before the pandemic, this was important, correct? You know, I mean,
Yeah, this is continual. This is something that you need to just get into the habit of and doing it, every day, every week, checking that LinkedIn profile. And obviously the first part is getting that, LinkedIn profile looking clean and professional and the way that you want it, obviously. But, from there on, really, it's going to be a perpetual thing and you just need to get into the habit of doing it. It's gonna make a huge difference for your career.
yeah, for sure. And then, of course, remain calm, don't panic. I mean, we get it. It's a difficult time right now, but the employers know this too. Just sometimes when if you email an HR person, it's okay if you don't hear anything from in a week or two. Luke, what's the average time? Like if a candidate reaches out to you, how long do you usually respond to that candidate?
So if we think that they're a good fit, Nathan, probably within about a week or two, ideally, and sometimes it can be longer, sometimes it can be shorter. But yeah, I would give your expectations to be like 7 to 14 days, something like that.
That's good. That's good to know, Luke, because I've had students say, "Well, I applied and the interview went well, but I haven't heard back from them." Well, I mean, just be patient. I mean, 2 weeks. I know it's a long time to wait, and you don't know what to do, but that's the hiring process. It is what it is. Luke, let me go back to this one slide about the jobs. So again, there are some industries actively hiring right now. Healthcare, Glassdoor's reported an uptick in healthcare right now. Grocery stores are booming. Places like Kroger, Walmart are definitely hiring right now, especially for the holidays coming up. Retail, I know Amazon just had a hiring fair out here, Luke, and so the Amazon warehouses, it's a good job, and they start at like $17 an hour. So,
It's
and
nice.
they're gonna continue to have hiring events, so think about that. Telecommunications, all these companies that are actually create the tools that we're talking on right now, they're hiring, IT, yeah, all kinds of things. I mean, in that area, I've seen a big uptick in that. Unemployment. I mean, think about the millions of people that are unemployed right now, and there's they need caseworkers for that. And lastly, manufacturing. So these manufacturing companies, there's a big demand for certain resources right now, and so look into those jobs. Again, it's okay to start somewhere. Let's say Amazon. Let's say you're pulling orders may not be ideally, but guess what? It's paying the bills. It may lead to opportunities because these companies also have maintenance departments. They need electricians. They need engineers. I mean, you've got to get your foot in the door one way or the other, and it's okay to start at some of these spots. So most definitely. Well, I mean, let me make sure, Luke, that that's the end of the presentation. Oh, the last thing I just want to share real quick, if you don't mind, is these additional resources. So ONET is a great exploration tool. You can meet with a career coach, a career specialist to talk about career coach. This is again just a career planning resource option. And by the way, career coach actually is connected to Indeed.com, so you can find current positions through ACC's career coach. The Muse, I read it all the time. It's just a great online career resource. It has advice from experts on every subject. Dice.com is very popular with engineering professionals, and Upwork. So again, Mitch, going back to that freelance work that we talked about, you can find a lot of those opportunities. So that's all we have. So we'll open it up for thank y'all. We'll open it up for questions. So if anybody has a question, go ahead.
I would
Hi.
like to, I'm sorry, just real quick, I would just like to thank Mr. Rosas and Mr. Murray for this time. And we're going to go ahead and pass it over to Dr. Crispin so that we can find out any questions or comments from today's presentation.
Yes, this is Jennifer Crispin, one of the librarians. One of the questions that we got in the chat was, would you say that someone with a more professional personality or a bubbly, talkative personality would be more effective in an interview?
I think both could work. I think, or either rather. I don't think it has to be one or the other. I think the key is that you have to approach any interview, with your professional persona, right? You want to make sure that you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's, and you need to look the part as well. So obviously dress up, and there's something psychological to that too. When you dress up, you automatically kind of put yourself into the mindset of, okay, we're doing this is business here. We're really gonna knock this out of the park. So it really kind of mentally prepares you as well. But having a bubbly personality is great too. I don't think it's bad if you don't have that though. I think that there is also something to be said for the fact that if you talk too much, and you're overly excited and too much of any one thing is a bad thing. Everything in moderation is what I always say. So make sure that you're kind of evening it out. If you feel like you're talking too much, you probably are. So you need to scale it back just a little bit. And yeah, just let the conversation flow. Again, employers want to get to know you. They don't want you to be someone who you're not, is what I would say.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I'll add to that, Luke. Because Luke, you actually answered it earlier about not being afraid to show people who you are. That's your brand. If you're bubbly, that's great. But also look at it from a professional point of view, that these employers are expecting concise responses, especially in interview questions. Your time is limited, so most interviews are what, 30 to 45 minutes, and that's stretching it. I think you've got to be able to have concise statements. Be yourself, but at the same time not overdo it with the bubbliness to the point where the interview is taking a different. Just remember this: the focus is on you and what you can do for the company. So if you stick to that guideline, that's your best game plan, I think.
Thank you. So far, that's the only question I've received, but I'm still watching for more.
Okay, sure. We got a few more. We got a few minutes if anybody has another question.
So I have a question. It says, what's the best way to be less intimidating?
Luke.
Yep. So what's the best way to be less intimidating? So if you, I mean, I'm assuming, right? I don't know how this, what the backstory is with this question, but I'm assuming that, this would be answered for someone who, has a already very, aggressive personality, and someone who, really, can intimidate, through their communication style, to begin with. The first step is recognizing that. So kudos to you if you recognize that about yourself and you want to scale that back. And then again, practice it, right? So practice how to maybe be a little bit, scale back, a little bit less aggressive. And just have some general conversations with friends of yours or maybe family members, and have them, give you an honest evaluation. And here's the other thing: you have to be ready to take that feedback. You can't get defensive about it if you are the one asking for that feedback. If you are the one asking to better yourself, which is a great thing, you also have to be willing to take it, right? And then do something about it. So do something with that information. I don't know, Nathan, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, so Tamala, I'll answer that with the actual experience here in the office. So right before we were sent home under COVID, I had a student come to career services, and we were doing a practice interview. And the student tells me he's a Marine, he's got the military background, which is great. Employers love veterans, and because of the skill sets they bring to a lot of these jobs. But after the second or third question, I noticed he was just stiff. I'm talking like didn't smile. He was like answering it almost like he was talking to like his military captain or something. And so I actually stopped the practice interview and I straight up asked him, I was like, look, are you going to be like this in an interview? You've got to relax. You've got to put that smile on your face. don't, it's okay to be yourself. Like I said, don't let me confuse anybody when I'm trying to answer this. But like Luke is saying, if you know that you have an assertive personality, or if you know that you may come across as defensive, then that's something you need to practice. That's something that you need to take a look at. Again, kudos that you recognize this feature. But if you know it's going to come across not the right way, especially for someone who doesn't know you, that's something that needs to be worked out. And so, I kind of, with this particular student, we kind of just joked it off, and he's like, yeah, I don't know how to not be serious. I'm like, look, it's okay. I was like, just my best advice I gave to him, and it really helped him relax a lot, was that the interviewer, they're just people too. I mean, they're they have families, and they go home like me and you do. They're normal people. There's nothing to get nervous about. Just relax.
Yeah.
So that was the thing, and he did, and we started the interview over again, and it was much better outcome, I think. So yeah.
Okay, and Mr. Rose, I just wanted to add to that for that particular question.
Sure.
This would be a great opportunity for you students to with your career center, because that's what we do also. We help you with the mock interview, so we can kind of help you loosen up or get your presentation together, so that you may not come across as intimidating or anything like that. So we have time for one last question, and that is, what kind of questions should someone ask, like a student who is looking for a temporary part-time job? And if we can wrap this up within 3 minutes so that we can move on, because we have some additional information we would like to share.
Yeah, I actually put a couple. So while you guys are talking, I hope you don't mind me doing this. I put a couple of ideas in the chat, so feel free to check those out. The first is kind of a general question. The second is a little bit more specific to kind of what's current events and what's going on with COVID. But again, guys, I would really encourage you to make your questions pretty specific, and you need so what I mean is, it needs to be specific to the job that you're interviewing for. So you may start with like a general question, like how long have you been here and why do you enjoy working here? But then I think a follow-up question could and should be way more specific. It should be about that job. It should be, okay, in this job, what are some of the key things that you're going to want me to accomplish right away? And address, that particular position in the job description. Make sure that you're kind of tying it back to that, because again, that shows that you are really making an effort to pay attention to what it is that you're interviewing for, and the company that you're interviewing with. And then also it shows that you're focused on the details. You're being attentive to things that could be pretty darn important to that employer.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I'm going to put in the chat Nathan's email address as well as my email address. So for those who had questions that we weren't able to answer because we have to wrap up, feel free to email us, and we will be more than happy to either schedule a virtual appointment with you so that we can talk to you face to face, and or email or via phone. Once you go into Career Hub and register as a student, you will see how you can go in to schedule appointments with your career specialist. So at this time, just real quick, Nathan, if you can tell them the next couple of events that's coming up.
Oh yeah. So we have some engineering events that are coming up, and it's okay if you're not an engineering student. We've had students that are in business and other majors that would like to have interview practice or have their resumes reviewed. So on October the 8th, which is this Thursday, we have the interviewing event. And so employers will be there if you want to kind of go through some practice questions with them, and they'll kind of tell you a little more about what they're looking for in during an interview, and maybe touch base on some of the things we addressed here. What are some good questions to ask and what have you. And then on October the 15th is the engineering resume review. And again, there's going to be several employers that will be part of that. But if you're not able to make it virtually, this year we have a new format where you can actually email us the resumes, and we will email those resumes to the employer, and the employer will send you feedback. The engineering manager for Turner Construction is gladly doing this for us. And so if there's any students, manufacturing, drafting and design, engineering students that would like us to email this particular employer their resume and get some feedback along with notes, please start putting your resumes into the system so that we can get these into the hands of the employer. So yeah, thank you for allowing me to say those things, Kimberly.
You're welcome. Now I will turn it over to Ms. Brown.
Hi, everyone from the Office of Student Life. I want to thank you all for attending this session. We do have a couple of e-gift cards that we're going to raffle off at some point in the week. So what we usually do is we take a list of all of the attendees and then we put it into Will Decide, which is a app that automatically randomly selects a winner. And so we'll be raffling off 3 $25 gift cards just for you all attending today's session. We will also do this for the future life hacking sessions that will be coming up as well. So you guys will receive an email that will let you guys know who the winners are. So it'll be a link to watch the playback from this video, and then it will also announce the winners. Thank you so much, Ms. Franklin.
You're very welcome. And we would like to thank everyone for your attendance. And as I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to email Nathan or myself. Thank you all so much for joining us. Have a good day.
Thank y'all, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.